The movie takes place in a disordered and impoverished future when some humans, known as teeps, have evolved psychic abilities. They can read the minds of others and implant their own thoughts and feelings into their minds. These telepaths possess a scar on their face that distinguishes them as teeps. The Free Union, a sorry excuse of a government, is trying to keep teeps in check, lest they start a rebellion against the society and subsequently the government. To be fair to them, though, they are also trying to protect the teeps from the clutches of the normals, people who don't possess telepathic abilities and who desire for autonomy of their own thoughts. The movie opens with a peaceful scene of a man and a child standing by the river, while a woman, later identified as Honor, is looking at them from the other side. The scene abruptly changes into one of chaos, as the normals have taken the streets in protest against the legalization of the Anti-Immunity Act. The law warrants the use of the telepaths as weapons against civilians. Honor is a teep, and alongside the law enforcement, is using her abilities to measure the degree of threat from the sidelines. During her reading, one of the protesters realizes that they are being read and directs the other's attention towards her, causing a turbulent riot. In the midst of the havoc, a man wearing an odd hood attacks the teep and her agent. What follows is a strenuous chase between the hooded man and Honor's agent, Ross, leading up to an altercation. Later, as Honor, who was drafted by the government to work for them, faces intense prejudices and whispered accusations in the clearance office because of her recruitment. Meanwhile, Ross is being convinced by the head to work with her. The two of them begin working together amid growing public distrust of teeps. While interrogating the aggressor, Ross seeks Honor's help to gain more information about his secret lair and accomplices. The protester, John Rathbone, refuses to give away any information. Honor reads his mind, discovering his deepest and the most humiliating secrets: how he desperately desires to appease his brother, how he failed to do so, his disturbing sexual attraction towards his own mother. At this point, John is visibly agitated and asks her to stop, but the teep is relentless, forcing herself deeper and deeper into his memory, slowly taking control. She eventually manages to trace the location of the hidden lair and his accomplices. Through the interaction, it becomes evident that along with the mind-reading ability, teeps can also feel the emotions of the person they are subjecting their power on. The clearance proceeds to raid the lair with the help of Honor. Upon reaching the lair, Honor swiftly leads them to the accomplices, while also discovering several other hoods. While Ross interrogates them, she senses another presence. Following her intuitions, she comes across another hooded aggressor. Ross arrives at that moment, asking Honor if the perpetrator is armed. She fails to read him. In a poverty-stricken ghetto inhabited by the teeps, a member of the union, Franklin, visits Mary, a telepathic prostitute. He forces her to narrate out loud a disturbing rape fantasy he has about her. Shortly after, Mary suffers from nightmares because of the traumatic experience, leading the other teeps, including Honor, to console her. Mary accuses Honor of being a part of the clearance, blaming her for their actions. The union member, meanwhile, receives a package, a hood from the hoodmaker. The next morning, Ross comes to the ghetto to pick Honor up, much to her dismay. He tries to appease her with an offering of breakfast, but it doesn't do much good. After witnessing a prank on his car, he makes a comment about the ghettos being the origin of all troubles. Honor retaliates by saying that wouldn't be true if the teeps were allowed to live normally in the first place. Back in the clearance office, Ross informs the other detectives that the hood is made up of 86% unbleached wax linen material. He orders them to conduct a thorough investigation on the Science Division Union, as the hood maker may pose a serious threat to the teeps. This prompts someone to comment that might not be a bad thing.
Who said that?
To which Ross replies that they might lose their control on the city if something were to happen. Honor offers to assist in the investigation and reads several minds to access information about the unbleached linen material. In a barren part of the city, some people are sent boxes of hoods by the hoodmaker. Later, Honor and Ross share a moment. When some kids try to shame Honor, Ross strikes up a conversation with her, asking if it is noisy in her mind. She replies that it is, and she wants to leave the city someday. She also mentions how being around Ross feels different. Before she can explain why, she is again teased by some children. As Ross goes to reprimand them, Honor hears Mary in her mind begging for help.
Help me! Help me!
Honor and Ross rush to the ghetto. There, they see a drunk, hooded Franklin holding a gun against Mary's head. Ross commands him to drop the gun and let her go, but he pays no attention to the clearance agent. Franklin recounts what happened earlier and says that he forced Mary to read him, but she could not, resulting in the current situation. He further threatens Ross by saying that he is the director of federal resources, so the clearance will not be able to lock him up. Ross tries to take him down, but he buys freedom in exchange for assistance in the clearance investigation, promising to provide information about the person who ordered the linen fabrics. Honor, in one of the rooms, is inspecting the hood. She experiences a strange silence upon wearing it, though she quickly removes it from her head when she hears Ross. He informs her that the request for linen came from a department created to specifically research teep prevention.
The request for linen fabric came from a department.
Together, they watch a video where the teeps were used as lab specimens. They learn that this research was headed by one Dr. Thaddeus Cutter. He had apparently later suffered a breakdown, causing him to resign from the Science Union Division for health-related reasons. Honor sarcastically jokes that if he had something on his mind, a teep could have helped him with it. Ross replies that although it is forbidden to read an agent, she should try it on him. Honor calls him different once again.
You're different.
And this time, she tells the reason for feeling that way without interruption. That night, Mary is walking through the streets of the ghetto amid torrential rain, her mind filled with a song Honor is singing. Suddenly, Franklin appears and orders her to get inside his car. She complies, but as soon as Franklin starts talking, she presses her palm hard against his head. He screams in pain. The car is immediately surrounded by other teeps. Riots break out around the ghetto, even as Ross struggles to bring the situation under control. He asks Honor to help him, but she can't decide. Her mind is filled with messages from Mary telling her that it has started. Distraught by Ross's constant questions, Honor abruptly says that she has no place to go.
I've nowhere to go.
Ross brings Honor back to his apartment. He looks at the grave situation out of his window, concluding that it all might explode. Honor, completely unfazed, responds by saying the normals would love the situation as they finally have a reason to destroy the teeps. Ross disagrees, stating that although Mary might think like that, Honor would not. Saying that she is part of the clearance, he implores her to trust him. Later, they have a drink together. Ross is worried about the teeps in the underground and asks Honor if she would tell him about it if she knew anything. Honor responds by asking if he would tell her what the normals were planning to do with the telepaths if there indeed was an uprising. Ross asks her to just read him if she does not believe him. She refuses. She tells him how she had been able to read her mother's feelings in the womb and how her parents despised her for reading people.
I could read my mother's thoughts in the womb.
Feeling the tension in the room, she gets up and looks at a photograph of young Ross and his father. Ross talks about his father with great adoration and says he was not afraid of the teeps because he wore his heart on his sleeve. He talks about his memories with his father, how his mind was at peace. Honor replies that that is how she feels when she is with him, and they share a kiss. Later that night, Honor sees a vision of a river with a young Ross and his father. A scene filled with peace and solace, but she does not read him further. She discovers a list of book depositories that might lead them to the hoodmaker. When Ross wakes up from his sleep, Honor shows him what she has found. She tells him that as wax linen is used to bind books, they should investigate the Union Book Depository, which had closed 13 years ago. Ross goes to pay the place a visit, but stops Honor from coming along. She follows him nonetheless. Honor goes to the depository. Her mind is clogged with the messages from Mary and the other teeps, asking her to kill the hoodmaker. Both Ross and Honor reach the site separately, but Ross meets Dr. Cutter first. The scientist discloses the real reason for developing the hoods. The Union wanted a firewall for themselves to get protection from the teeps. He stresses the need of evolution for the normals to develop their own hoods to enjoy the freedom of their own thoughts and existence. Then, Cutter mentions Ross's power to create his own hood, calling him a weapon against the teeps. At that moment, Honor, who had been eavesdropping in the conversation, is discovered. Curious, she asks Ross about his power. but Ross provides no convincing answer. Dr. Cutter compels Honor to read Ross. Upon sincerely trying to read Ross, she realizes she is stuck on only one memory, the one with him and his father at the river. She is then struck with the revelation that Ross can block teeps.
You can't get through!
That the peace she felt with her was just not being able to read him. Feeling betrayed, she begins humming the song Mary heard in her mind.
London's burning, London's burning.
Ross realizes she is sending the teeps after the doctor and attempts to help him. Cutter has other plans though. He sacrifices his life to protect Ross, directing him towards the fire escape. Ross tries to get Honor to talk to him. Instead, she runs away from him and closes the door behind herself. He begs for her to open the door, but she refuses. At the same time, the teeps find the doctor and surround him. They again create a mental overload and kill him. Then, they set fire to the depository. With the fire around them, Ross begs Honor to open the door as he has no other way out. He repeatedly pleads her to trust him, so Honor asks him to let her read him. As she tries to read him, she is taken back to the memory of the river once again. She commands him to let her through. Ross reluctantly lowers the barrier in his mind, asking for forgiveness. Honor, in a dramatic turn of events, he had apparently been appointed to investigate the rebellion and to gain her trust for information. Betrayed, she refuses to open the door. Mary, who had been listening, leaves. Ross pleads to Honor again, saying his memories, despite being true. The episode ends in an ambiguous note, with the city burning and Ross calling out for Honor.